perhaps accurately focused on what's why I titled my presentation "The Facts of Guardianship." The movie was really designed to be sort of a comedy of movie, and it is indeed not in any way, shape, or form about how guardianship actually how or in any of
Sally, I'm sorry to interrupt. Sally, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is
Yes.
Scott. You're breaking up a lot. We're only catching sort of about, you know, 2/3 of what you're saying. I'm wondering if maybe you leave and come back in, we might get a better connection. I'm not sure what to do. We're having a little trouble catching everything.
Okay.
The other possibility that sometimes helps is if everyone turns off the camera, because it reduces the total load on the system. If we want to give that a try initially.
I'm going to leave and come back in. Hold on.
Okay, I'll watch for you.
I appreciate people's patience. Carol, welcome. We are going to be getting started in just a moment. We had a few technical difficulties. Hurme, welcome. We're going to be getting started in just a moment. We had a couple of technical difficulties and our speaker is going to be rejoining us.
Okay.
All right, here she comes, I think.
And we are going to turn off our cameras to try and reduce the load on the system to help enhance the quality of the video. Sally, welcome. Thank you for coming back to join us.
Let's see if this audio is better. Does that sound better? How am I coming through, Scott?
Seems okay right now. Go ahead.
Scott?
Yeah.
Why don't you go share your presentation? We can see how it goes.
Yeah.
I appreciate everyone's patience. Zoom is a challenge some days.
Okay. How's that?
I think we're doing well so far.
I'm showing. So far, so good?
Yep.
If others have difficulty hearing, if you want to just share that in the chat, we're going to do our best to work with the technology.
All right. It might work if better. My audio better? Is this clear?
It's still breaking up a lot, Sally. I'm sorry. Yeah. Another option is we could bring you in on a phone and I can share your presentation, which I have on my
okay.
desktop. If you want to
You
try
should
that.
have and I can call in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we do that? I'll share my screen with your presentation.
Got my phone here.
Yeah. And you call in and let's see if that will work. So if you could stop your screen share.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
on my technology.
Okay, I've got your presentation up. Can everybody see that? Once we get her back in, see if that works.
Are we not going to hear her voice?
Yeah, well, we will when she gets back in. I haven't seen her come back in.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting followed by pound.
That may be her coming.
If everyone can give us just another moment, hopefully we'll be past these technology challenges.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue.
Scott, what's the meeting password?
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter the meeting passcode followed by pound.
Irma or Wendy, do you have that on the Shepherd Center?
For it now.
4256445.
Re-enter the meeting passcode followed by pound.
Try that again.
4256445.
Thank you, Anne.
64.
You
Five.
entered 2564. This meeting passcode is invalid. Goodbye.
425.
Okay, tell me the password again.
425.
I think it is a personalized
Oh, all right.
login. Give me a moment. I'm going to leave the meeting to access it. I apologize. Oh no, it's not going to work.
Wrote it down. What did I write? I've got it. If anybody can hear me, can you? hear me? I've got it. If you want me to tell you.
Sure, this is Scott, but I think Wendy is looking it up on the home.
I wrote it down. If you want the 6-digit one, it's 425-645. Unless it's a long one. That's a different one. 425-645.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Sally, yeah, I'm showing 425-645 for your account as well, so it's not personalized. Would it make sense, Anne Marie, if you were willing, should we reverse the order of our presentations, and we can work with Sally on her technical challenges moving ahead? Is that something you'd be willing to do?
Of course, that's fine.
I appreciate that.
Oh, it's windy.
It's never easy in the Zoom world. So I appreciate everybody's flexibility. We're going to move to Anne Marie Ferdinando. She is going to be doing a presentation, actually 2 for us this morning. And she has asked that we share our questions in the chat as we go. I think we also can return to our video if people would like to do that. Sally, I apologize for these technical challenges and I appreciate your flexibility. And Anne Marie, I think I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, very fine. I'm on the phone now, except now I have an echo.
Sally, you need to hang up from your computer because when you're on 2 different systems, that's what creates the problem.
There we go. I'm off the meeting and I am, Scott, if you would pull up the my slides.
All right, Wendy, hang on just a second.
I have those on my computer, and so
Yeah.
we'll tag team this. And again,
Sally, I'm having difficulty hearing you, so you may need to move your phone closer to you. So we're going to go back to Plan A, and we'll have Sally do her presentation. I appreciate everybody's patience. Technology is often our friend, but clearly not this morning.
All right, the presentation should be up. Sally, as you talk, just tell me when you want to advance the slides.
very fine. I believe if you could move to the second slide, which is titled Blazing Headlines. Okay, we have blazing headlines. There's been lots of publicity recently about guardianship, and some of the media attention has definitely cast a very negative and disagreeable light upon guardianship. Perhaps there have been two really big stories in the last couple of months. One being a Netflix sort of comedy thriller type of performance called I Care, in which a very malicious guardian exploited her, the people that she had been appointed by the court to represent, and then gets involved with the mafia, and there's all sorts of exciting action scenes. This movie, some have thought perhaps portrayed a documentary of how guardianships are created, ulterior motives of guardians, and very lax procedures in the courts to supervise the guardians. I can assure you that this movie is a total fiction, and it is not an accurate documentary or any sort of representation of how guardianships are created, who guardians are, or what the process is to obtain guardianship. Sort of along at the same time, there's been another big guardianship story about Britney Spears. There's lots of social media about free Britney from her conservatorship. The public really doesn't know all of the details about Britney Spears' nervous breakdown and mental health and addiction issues. But a number of years ago, her father believed that it was appropriate to obtain conservatorship over Britney, primarily because she had $28 million in assets that she was unable to manage, and perhaps was being exploited by managers and hangers-on and so forth. And so for her protection and the protection of her great wealth, the court in California awarded her father conservatorship over Britney and her vast wealth. Most of the media about Britney has really been about not whether she needs a conservatorship, but who should serve. The intra-family issues between father and daughter, movie actress not wanting to be having her money controlled by her family, has been the real issue that has appeared in the court. But because, next slide, please. Because these two sort of big media events in the last couple of months have created so much attention, I wanted to take this opportunity to look at what really is guardianship. And it is a formal court process by which a judge, based on evidence that is presented, determines if the individual has the ability to make sound and reasonable decisions about either their personal care or about their financial matters. And if their ability is so impaired that they are at risk of exploitation or their personal health and safety, then the court makes the determination that they need the assistance of a guardian for their safety and protection. Next slide. So what is the process to create a guardianship? It's a complex process. It can be expensive and time-consuming and potentially humiliating for the family and the individual that we call the respondent, or the person against whom the petition has been made. But if someone decides that they believe that a person needs a guardian, they must file a petition with the court laying out why they think the person is impaired to such an extent as to need the assistance of a guardian. Prior to the hearing in the court, there must be medical or psychological, psychiatric evidence presented, an evaluation by professionals as to the degree of their disability. The individual will receive a lawyer to represent their wishes and to test through cross-examination the evidence of the medical professionals. There will be a hearing in the court on the evidence, and if the evidence meets the standard of proof set out in the statute, that there's clear and convincing evidence of a disability, then the court will enter an order giving authority to the individual to then become the guardian of the individual. And what the hearing process really does is to help the court answer some very significant questions. Primarily, does the person really need a guardian? And what are the risks to the individual's well-being or finances if there is no appointment of a guardian? And the court also needs to look at, are there other things that can be done that would protect the person?
I am looking for a new Subaru Forester, and I got a call from Bobby.
Hang on, Sally. I gotta mute everybody here. Hang on. I'm gonna mute everybody and then ask you to unmute yourself. Actually, can everybody mute themselves, please? That was going to be easier because Sally's on her phone.
There's somebody else who can help me. I am a Costco member.
All right. I'm going to mute anybody that's not muted here. All right. I think we got everybody muted. So Sally, go ahead. I apologize.
Okay, very fine. Continue on with the court's going to make inquiry as to whether there are other things that procedures or methods that would protect this person short of the drastic measure of obtaining guardianship, such as will a power of attorney work, or an advance directive, or a trust, or representative payship, or something that is less intrusive into the person's life that will continue to protect their well-being. And then if there's nothing else but guardianship that will solve whatever the person's problems might be, the court needs to determine who is the best person to appoint as the guardian. It may be a family member, it may be a professional, it may be an attorney, whoever is willing, able, and capable of taking on this fairly awesome responsibility. And then the court needs to figure how much authority does the guardian need to receive. Perhaps there's a need only for assistance with major financial decisions, and that the individual can retain the right to make their own decisions about, like, where they live or who they associate with, or their other personal affairs. So next slide, please. So there are problems with guardianship, and lots of people are working on making improvements in that process. One primary concern with the whole thing about guardianship is it's a really expensive process. There need to be the medical evaluations. The court will appoint what is called a guardian ad litem, who will assist the court in determining the facts and interview the individual and interview the prospective guardian, interview perhaps care providers or others who are familiar with the circumstances of the individual, and that guardian ad litem needs to get paid. The person who presents the petition is going to need an attorney, and that will be attorney's fees involved there, as well as the appointment of representation for the respondent, or the person whose capabilities are being questioned in the court. They're going to need an attorney to represent them, to make sure their wishes and their viewpoint are adequately expressed to the court. So all those pre-hearing individuals need to be paid, and it can add up. There's also substantial concern about how adversarial should this be. In many circumstances, it's pretty obvious that the individual needs a guardian. They're in advanced Alzheimer's, or they're being financially exploited by another family member. But in some other circumstances, there may be really issues that are family issues, like who wants to take control over mom money, and arguments among the family members about where she should live, whether she should move to a different state, whether she can safely stay in her home, whether she needs to go into a nursing home. Those issues can all come out in the court proceeding. And there, obviously, if we need lots of lawyers and guardian ad litems and expert testimony, is there too much process when it's pretty obvious the person needs a guardian. And because of all of this sort of rigmarole around the process, it takes a long time. And if there is an emergency situation, it may seem to the petitioners that it's just taking way too long because the person needs the assistance of a guardian right now, because there are major decisions that need to be made and the individual doesn't have the ability or the capacity to do so. And one of the other sort of problems with guardianship is that in many circumstances, if there had been advanced planning, the family wouldn't be in this crisis situation where we need a guardian tomorrow to make a decision about whether the individual can safely stay in their home. Because guardianship is an intrusive interruption of the individual's ability to make their own decisions about how they spend their money, where they live, what medical treatment they get, how they're going to live their life. So we always say that guardianship should be the very last resort when all other ways to protect the individual have been tried and found wanting. It's very important to do that, get those legal documents in place, the power of attorney, the advance directive, plans about where the individual wants to live, where they can best be cared for well in advance before there is a crisis situation that forces sort of the family to go into court to have this elaborate, appropriately, I think, elaborate process to determine if there really is a need for guardianship. So next slide, please. So I wanted just to highlight what the process is, or the Virginia specifics. Every state has their sort of own uniqueness in their guardianship statutes, and what responsibilities are passed on to the guardian. Now, in Virginia, like about half the states, the statute has sort of two separate categories of decision makers, alternative decision makers. There are guardians who have the responsibility over personal decisions, and that includes what care the individual will receive, where they're going to live, what medical treatment they're going to have, whether they're going to, what activities they're going to engage in, those personal decisions of being around an individual's personal life. For financial matters, Virginia has the category of conservatorship and would appoint a conservator over financial matters. The conservator's responsibility have to do with all of financial matters, investing, contracting, spending. How is the money to be used? Primarily, how is the money going to be used to provide care for the individual? What social services are going to be necessary? What public benefits need to be applied for? But basically, when I talk about guardianship, I'm including conservatorship, but keep in mind that in Virginia, a conservator just has financial responsibilities and a guardian just has personal care decision-making responsibilities. the same person may be appointed both the guardian and the conservator. It could be one person, but they have different bundles of responsibilities. Next slide, please. One of the reasons why we talk about guardianship as the very last resort is that a lot of rights, decision-making rights, your ability to make your own decisions can be taken away through the guardianship process. In Virginia, if you are found in need of a guardian, you will lose the right to vote unless the court restores that right to you. You can lose the ability to make a decision as to whether you want to get married or whether you can petition for a divorce. You can lose the right to make the contracts that you wish, whether that's a contract for a credit card or to open a bank account or to contract to get home repairs on your house, or whether you can contract to obtain like home health care aid in your home. You can lose the right to determine where, who you associate with, who you visit, who you can communicate with, spend time with, where you can travel, where you can go. Do you have to get, can you just pick up and leave? You may lose that right to take a trip. Obviously, within guardianship, there's a need to make sure that the individual's civil and human and constitutional rights are preserved, such as it's expected that the individual retains the right to a competent guardian, that they will be treated with dignity and respect, and that their privacy and confidentiality rights will be preserved, and that they will have prudent financial management of their assets, and they will not be misspent or exploited, and that even though they've lost the right to actually make their own decisions, they have the right in Virginia to participate in the decision-making process to the greatest extent that they are capable. So, let's say you find yourself in the circumstance that a guardianship is appropriate for a loved one, whether it's a spouse or a sibling or an adult child, a friend, a relative, whoever it might be. You will have the authority, by statute, you take custody of the individual, which means you decide where is the most appropriate place that they should live, stay in their own home, receive services in their home. You decide what care services are needed, including what medical treatment they are to receive, their medications, the dental and vision, and hospitalization and emergency care and vaccinations, and all of those decisions about the individual's medical life, including in Virginia the authority with court approval to make end-of-life decisions. And you can also restrict where they live, who they associate with, who they communicate with. Although in Virginia that does need court approval. So being a guardian is an awesome responsibility, and you basically are stepping into the shoes of that individual and making decisions on their behalf. But even though you have lots of rights and authority, well, no, you don't have rights. Although you have lots of responsibilities and duties and concerns and care, as a guardian, you must always act in the best interest of the individual. You must include them in the decision-making process, honor and respect their wishes and their preferences and their goals, and help them achieve those goals. You must protect their rights to privacy, confidentiality of their business. You must help them improve and to be the as healthy both financially and personally and emotionally as you can. Both guardians and conservators must report to the court about all of their activities, what you have done, what decisions you have made, how frequently you have visited the individual, what major problems you have resolved and how you have resolved them. And for conservators, you must give an accurate accounting of all expenditures, how you have invested and spent the money, what assets you have, how you have protected the house, you have insured the house, contracted for services and so forth. And the court always has the ability to limit what decisions you can make. So it's again a massive responsibility as a guardian. And if you are appointed as the conservator over the finances, you must carefully manage the money. You must make a budget and determine how the money is going to be used to care for the individual for the rest of their life. If necessary, you'll be responsible for managing the investments to make sure the money is wisely invested, is adequately diversified, and you're receiving competent financial investment advice. You will have to open a separate bank account into which all of the respondent's money is placed. You'll be writing the checks and paying the bills, paying the utilities, paying for the care, paying the doctors, paying the insurance, making sure the Medicare or health insurance premiums are paid. You'll have control over how the individual spends their money, whether they receive an allowance or a personal needs allowance, that their credit card, whether, if they have a credit card, how they're using the credit card, making sure the credit card bill is paid, and then you would contract for any of the services that are necessary for the individual's care and well-being. So next slide, please. Even though you have a lot of financial authority, you have fiduciary responsibilities as to how you manage that money. You've got to prudently invest, wisely invest. You must make an annual accounting to the court with documentation of bank statements and canceled checks and so forth. You've got to figure out how you're going to make the money last. When you're first appointed, you must file an inventory of all of the assets that are under your control. And if the person needs to apply for any public benefits such as Medicaid, you need to be responsible for that application. And in all of the financial decisions that you make, you must avoid all conflicts of interest and consider the best interest of that individual. So a big responsibility with the court looking over your shoulder to making sure that you are appropriately managing that money. So next slide, please. So guardianship is something that needs to be avoided if at all possible, because it is a major deprivation of rights of your loved one. It can be an embarrassment to the loved one and to the family to have to go into court and say they can't do this and they can't do that, and they've made this they're making friends with the wrong people, they're giving their money away, they're not getting medical treatment, they're unsafe in their home, they're hoarding. All of those things have to come out in court. And it can be, as I said, expensive and time consuming to get. And if once a family does become the guardian or the conservator, they have very awesome responsibilities to the individual in taking over those decisions about finances and care. And of course, it can cause family friction when one family member, let's say, gets appointed as guardian and the other family member doesn't like their decisions. It can become a big family mess, and that's sort of the situation in the Britney Spears situation. Her court case, she doesn't necessarily say that she doesn't need a conservator. She just doesn't want her dad to be in control because she's mad at her dad. So because he got the conservatorship in the first place. So it can be messy and nasty. So the best way to avoid the mess and the conflict and of guardianship is for every individual, yourself and everyone else involved in your family circle, to not wait for a crisis when there is a failure of a disability or an inability of some family member to safely take care of themselves or their finances. So it's important to think through all of the what if. What if the person gets COVID? What if the person develops, some family member develops some form of dementia or has a stroke or an automobile accident? Who will be available and willing to make those decisions? And it really is a family conversation involving spouses, adult children, parents, whoever is in the family circle, for everyone to have a conversation about those what if, and make sure that each individual has the opportunity to make their wishes known and to say, if something should happen to me, I want Susie to take care of my finances, and I want Fred to take care of my personal affairs. And so after those conversations about the what if and what are the individual wishes of each individual within the family, get those documents in place, the powers of attorney and the advance directives for every member of the family. And also check out some of the options in advance. So what if someone starts to develop Alzheimer's? What are the options for staying in their home, being cared for by the family for as long as possible, but when that becomes an impossibility, what kinds of care in assisted living or in a skilled nursing facility, what other options are available? Because we do need to keep in mind what are those what ifs. So as the media has portrayed guardianship and conservatorship as a horrible thing, I've talked about some of the major problems within guardianship, but you do need to keep in mind that guardianship or conservatorship can be the only solution to an otherwise very difficult situation. It can be a lifesaver for someone who is neglecting their care and neglecting in a dramatic way their safety, and conservatorship can be the answer when there is exploitation, either by scams, telemarketing, by family members who are wanting to take over control and raid bank accounts, et cetera, et cetera. So guardianship and conservatorship can be the answer if nothing else is going to be available. So those are the topics that I wanted to cover with you today. I sorely am sorry for the technical difficulties that we had, but thank you for bearing with me. And Scott, thank you for advancing my slides. I would be glad to answer questions. Somebody's going to have to read me whatever questions have popped up in the chat, since I am actually not on not on the webinar.
Thank you, Sally, and thanks for bearing with the technical issues there. We were able to hear you just fine, and I think I advanced the slides pretty close to the way you needed them done there. It might be easier. It might be easier to have people go ahead and ask questions verbally. I don't see anything in the chat box right now, so if people, if people have a question, yeah, just pipe up.
This is Sabina Joe. I have two questions. One is, where would one find history of case law, recent case law, well, just case law in Virginia on this issue? Where would
well,
that's the first question.
You can find case law just in the reported decisions of the Virginia trial courts and Supreme Court. There's not been a lot of recent cases involving guardianship or conservatorship in Virginia, but they would be published in the law reporters.
Okay, and the second question is, you've spoken a lot about the responsibilities of guardianship, the responsibilities of conservatorship. What are the responsibilities and rights of the individual to which is, I think, you alluded to the horror stories on the movies and everything about guardianship, et cetera. What are the rights and opportunities for the individual to reject guardianship under Virginia state law? What are the protections?
Okay, there are multiple points. There would be the entry point when the petition for the guardianship is filed, and through their attorney, they would want to bring forth evidence that they have the capability, that they do not need a guardian, that they are not unable to care for themselves or care for their family. And that is the important role of a very strong advocate attorney to challenge the representations that have been made in the petition. If the court does go ahead and decide that the individual needs a guardian, the individual continues to have the opportunity to go to court again. Again, it's another court hearing to present evidence that, let's say, they've gotten better. They've taken steps to treat their mental illness or their addiction. They have recovered from their traumatic brain injury that they received in the automobile accident a couple of years ago, that they have developed a circle of friends who are trustworthy, who will help them make decisions, what we call supported decision making. They can at each work with the guardian to make sure that they get the support that they need to improve their faces.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because
thanks, Sally.
one of the things that we've really been working on in our efforts for guardianship reform is to give make sure that the person under guardianship or conservatorship continues to have access to the court to be heard by the court.
That's great, Sally. Hey, listen, Pam asked a nice question in the chat, which I saw. Her question is there a process of formal mediation or a formal mediator that can be accessed that can prevent you having to go through the full process of guardianship and or conservatorship?
Absolutely. Mediation may be very appropriate for disputing family members long before you get into the court process. Mediation is available in Virginia by any disputing parties. There is a special kind of mediation and training that is available that is called elder caring coordination. And elder caring coordination is a special training with special facilitators. It's like mediation, but it has lots of built-in protections so that the individual who is at the center of the controversy, their rights are protected, and the battle between feuding family sides of the family don't obscure what the whole reason for the mediation is, which is the best interest of the individual that is that the family is concerned and fighting over. Elder caring mediation coordination. You can look it up on the Google it on the internet. It's a very valuable, specialized kind of dispute resolution in these nasty family cases.
Great question, Pam. Thank you for bringing that up. I don't see any other questions in the chat box. Does anybody, I have a question, but I wanted to give other people a chance. Does anybody else have a question they want to go ahead and unmute yourself if you do and ask. Anissa, I see you unmuting yourself. Do you have a question?
I unmuted.
Oh, Mary Ellen. Okay, go
I
ahead.
don't want to interrupt somebody else if they were asking a question. Were they asking a question? I don't want to interrupt them.
Oh, no, go ahead, Mary Ellen.
Okay, the question is a simple one, but I'm out of state for my whole family's in the Midwest. Not a single soul is here. I am not in a position, unless somebody hits me with a truck or some bad thing happens, that I'm going to expect to have a problem soon, but I'm almost 80 now, so I know I have to be careful. My mother was almost 100, so, you know, when she died. But I just wondered, is there anything that helps when you are in another far away state? They can't even get in the car and get here fast. So do you have any suggestions?
Are you wanting to know who you would perhaps select to be your agent under a power of attorney or your
Well, yes.
healthcare advocate?
That's true. I already wrote down the 5-wish thing and put 2 people down, but that's a telephone call.
Okay.
They can call back to Wisconsin if I'm in the emergency room and dying, and they can say, Mary Ellen said, do not put her on a machine, let her go. They know to do that. But it's when you have a long-term situation, that's what I was.
Yes. Well, the way we've been handling conversations and assistance during the pandemic is, you know, through Zooms and phone calls.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think you're talking. I actually am surprised when you said, oh yeah, there's a Zoom, for heaven's sake, you're on it. I'm sorry, I didn't even think of that. So legally speaking, would it work? Legally speaking, would someone in another state or far away, not in your state, because we have state laws, would they be able to do that? Thank you. You've solved my problem.
Okay. Well, if there is a need for, if your family recognizes that there is a need for you to have a guardian appointed in Virginia, they would need to come to Virginia. They've got to get on an airplane or in a car and come here and participate in the proceeding.
I hear
chances and an out-of-state guardian or conservator can be appointed in Virginia, but it for having an out-of-state caregiver, whether it's just an informal or formal caregiver or a court-appointed guardian, not having them on site create, it's not impossible, but it does create difficulties, like, you know, arranging remotely how to get you to a doctor's appointment. So
I'm thinking of something a lot. Yeah, I understand. You're talking about someone who would obviously have to do this long term, not just in an emergency situation. I understand your point, of course. And then you'd have to make other arrangements, and you'd have to get someone like a lawyer or someone to come and make sure it's written up so that it's what you would want in the future, looking prospectively into the future, which is something I'm trying to figure out how to do myself, because I have someone I trust here as a lawyer, but he's a real estate lawyer. So, and he's old as I am. So that's another problem. No, I get it. But, okay. But I understand the general problems for long term. And then I know what we're up against. You have to get someone you just trust here, and my friends are dying.
Right.
So that's another
but
problem.
I think you're talking about the emergency caregiver in a health crisis, not a long-term
yes and no.
situation.
If you become debilitated and have Alzheimer's or something horrible like that happens and you're in trouble, you need something for the long term. That's what I was, but I appreciate what you said. I get it. I don't need to take everybody's time up worrying about, you know, one specific situation like myself, but.
No, but that's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question because you have, for instance, an example like Ronald Reagan when he was president, who
Yeah.
was later identified with Alzheimer's. At what point does the responsibility, did he obviously had somebody he could rely on, his wife, and
Yeah.
a lot of resources. Some people do not have all those resources, and we have a lot of baby boomers who may contract Alzheimer's later, or may contract something which is not exactly dementia, but maybe they're just not on top of their taxes this year or something like
Oh
that.
God, that's me right now.
Right. And in that case, I'm in a fortunate position. I think that I'm looking at elder law attorneys and elder law potential executors because I have out of state family, things like that. But I would like to hear more I think have enough resources to take care of the needs, to hire people, concierge service for a doctor I trust who can arbitrate between other doctors and mediate between them, that kind of thing. But for people who don't have those resources, I would like to hear more about what they can do to answer these types of questions which you've just presented.
Okay.
These long-term issues which do not have a ready solution.
Thank you for putting it clearly.
Thanks, Sabina. Go ahead, Sally. Did you get that?
Okay, yeah, well, that's kind of a whole nother webinar. Where do you find?
Maybe in May. Maybe we can do that in May.
For those with no immediate family, in the neighborhood, in the community, where do you find the professionals, the support, the agents with powers of attorney, whether it's long-term or crisis? And yeah, sign me up in May. There are options, but it is a difficult situation, particularly for I was going to say women, but it could also be for men. Sure. Who have never married or who are widowed or widowers, and who don't have close family. So they've outlived their siblings. Their kids are in California. What do you do? And that is a very, very good topic.
Thank you,
with
Sally.
No simple answers.
So,
but there are.
Good. So Tom typed in a nice question to the chat box. I wanted to, Anise, you had unmuted yourself earlier. Did you have a question? I didn't want to walk over you, but I'm hearing no. So I'm going to ask Tom's question, which is a good question. It's sort of a nuanced question. He says, is there a way to limit the partially dysfunctional persons, the respondents' ability to contract, but not other aspects of conservatorship? Or is that really just done in the context of negotiating between the conservator and the individual?
Okay. Yes, there are other ways to manage, let's say, someone who just has difficulty managing their credit card, or buying a fancy Corvette that they really aren't capable of maintaining or driving. Making those just sort of one-off, irresponsible financial decisions. Yes, and I can speak from experience because my husband's form of dementia is greatly impacts. He does not have Alzheimer's. He has ability to assess risk and make executive decisions. So he does not think about the bank account. Is there a way to have a bank account with limit that just has limited resources in it? That is that individuals spending money and to put other assets into a bank account that is not accessible to the individual. There are special kinds of stored value credit cards. We use what is called a True Link card. It is a stored value card, and on which you can, the person setting up the account can put up, let's say, no expenditure on the credit card over $50, can't be used at liquor stores, cannot be used online or over the telephone if there's issues about telemarketing scams and identity theft. And it you can load the card, let's say, with $500 from the bank account, and as the bank account gets spent on whatever the individual wishes to spend their money on, but no more than $50 at a time, you can then reload more money onto the stored value card. Agency or convenience bank account is another kind of bank account that allows somebody else to help write checks on the account, but the money in the account is not theirs. So it sort of depends on the individual's circumstances, and sometimes you have to be somewhat creative. And one of the problems in setting this up is that the person who is trying to help the individual who really doesn't probably want to have help does need to have some sort of legal authority to talk to the bank, to create a special kind of credit card account. And that may be through a power of attorney. But again, if the individual is very reluctant to let anybody else into their financial life, and they're definitely financially at risk, they're giving their money away to strangers or giving their money away to telemarketers, then it may be appropriate to go into court to get authority, but you can get what is called a limited conservatorship, which you would ask that the court give you authority over, let's say, only major investments, let's say the brokerage account, and you would be the decision maker on the brokerage account, and the individual couldn't raid that account to, send $50,000 to the Prince of Arabia, who has this wonderful investment in mind. So there are things that can be done short of conservatorship, but you have to be somewhat creative, and you do have to recognize that you do need some form of authority, either through a written document or through the court, because Joe Schmo off the street can't come in and take over your bank account.
Always a good thing. Thank you, Sally. I want to thank you very much for, as usual, a wonderful presentation and a lot of good questions. Thank you, everybody. It's right at 11, I think, and we've got Anne-Marie Ferdinando, who's no stranger to most of us, I think. She's done a couple of wonderful presentations before for us. She's from Navy Federal and is the Regional Outreach Manager. And she's going to talk to us about two very important topics. And actually, that was a nice segue, Sally, from fraud and the security of financial assets into some of the things that Anne-Marie is going to be talking about. So Anne-Marie doesn't have a presentation, I don't think, right?
That is correct.
All right, good. She's just going to talk to us. She said it's okay to interrupt her during the presentations with questions that come up. So if you do have a question, you can unmute yourself and pop in to ask her, or if you want to put it in the chat box and let me read it to her, that's fine as well. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and let Anne-Marie take over. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with you today. If you'd like to come back on video, we're not having any trouble, so please feel free to do that. I'd love to have a conversation with you today. I'd love to see your faces. And if you want to just raise your hand or you want to just speak up. Hi, Mary Ellen, thank you. You're muted, Mary Ellen. All right, so yeah, we're gonna just see how this goes, but please raise your hand, talk. Okay, so we're gonna talk about credit right now. And this is a great thing to talk about at any stage of life. Even if you yourself feel very confident in managing credit, managing debt, others, your friends, your family, your children, your grandchildren, nieces, nephews, they may have challenges. And we can often help, because I'm finding that a lot with family these days, and it reminds me of Sally's presentation so much, that the more we talk to each other, the better it's going to be, right? Let's keep those lines of communication open. If they're not open now, let's find ways to open them up. And one of the ways is just to share basic information, basic things that we learn that aren't personal per se, you know? So we're just talking about credit in general with our family, or we're just talking about how to save money, or save for retirement with our family members, because the goal is to gain trust. And these conversations, when we have them early on, maybe then that's going to help avoid those difficulties that Sally was just talking about later on, because that just sounds like a mess, right? So if we can keep talking to each other now, well before any difficulties, any health or mental cognitive issues occur, then we'll probably go into those situations much stronger. So let's talk about credit first. What is a great credit score? And you know, I wonder if you guys all know. Anybody know? Anybody want to shout it out? Mary Ellen, shout it out.
Okay, I should unmuted. 700 is wonderful. 750 is outstanding. Anything over 750, that you walk on water.
Love it. Anyone else? Tom, did you want to say something?
Oh, my challenged son has a score of over 800. It sounds pretty great. He certainly gets a lot of credit card offers.
Well, that is good to hear. And you are both right. So the highest credit score you could possibly have is an 850. Now, 800 to 850 is considered amazing, but that does happen over time generally. But I think Mary Ellen said that 750 and above, you're good. I mean, that's what I like to always say to people, strive for that 750 mark. It's not hard to get there. And when you're there, 750 or above, you're gonna get the best credit, the best offers, the lowest interest rate for your loans. usually that any financial institution offers. But it's funny, as I read about this on the internet, different sources, I see that there's a lot of information out there, and some sources will say, oh, 680 is a really fine credit score. And then I find that when the people come in and apply for a loan with us, they're surprised that they did not get the best interest rate possible. Well, you know, the truth is that 680 is a good score, but it's not the best, and it's not going to get you the lowest interest rate. So good is 670 and above. Very, very good, excellent is 750 and above. So how do you get a great credit score, and what should you do? Well, let's talk about the myths first, because I find this very interesting, and we've gathered this from talking to a lot of people over time. So one myth number one, is checking your credit score hurts your score. So checking your credit or even looking at your credit report will hurt your score. Some people believe that. Now, applying for credit does lower your score each time you do that. But we are all entitled to check our credit reports at least once per year. That is a free, absolute, no harm to your credit score check. Many financial institutions, like Navy Federal, for instance, when you have a credit card with us, you can go online and there will be a link that will show you your updated score. Now that's the ideal way to check it, because you can see where it is at any given moment. And if anything was to go wrong with your credit, any identity theft issues or anything like that, it will reflect in that score. So for many people, that's their first aha awakening that something might be amiss, or maybe they forgot to make a payment. Myth number two, keeping a balance on your credit cards helps you build credit. This is so common, especially within the young community that I teach. They believe that they need to keep a balance on their card in order to build the credit. It doesn't work that way. Using credit, using your credit card is what's important. So I always advise, particularly with the young people who don't have a large income or resources, make small purchases. If you need gas in the car anyway, use the credit card and put the gas in the car. If you need some groceries today, go to the grocery store, use your credit card instead of cash. Then, as soon as possible, sometimes same day, make a payment. Go onto your online app, transfer the money right from your checking account, pay the credit card, and you are building credit. Charge and pay. That's the key. Pay before the due date, pay more than the minimum, pay it in full. But as long as you're charging and paying, you're good. You don't have to carry a balance. The only thing that carrying a balance is going to do is you're going to pay interest charges. And why should you do that? I mean, some financial institutions would like you to do that because that's how they make money, but don't do it if you can avoid it. Don't carry a balance. But use the card. Why? Because when you're using it, you're building credit, your score is going up, and a great credit score is going to get you those great loans for the important things, for the home you want to buy, for the car that you need, those things that you'll have a low interest rate. Here's another myth. Closing a credit card with a high interest rate will enhance your score. Closing a credit card. Now, when you want to close credit cards, you have to stop and think and say to yourself, well, how long have I had this? If you've had that credit account for a long period of time, that actually is a very important, good factor, positive factor for your credit score. You don't need to particularly use it. You certainly don't need to carry a balance, but closing it may not help you, actually. It's good to have credit that you've had for a long period of time. So that credit card that you've had for the last 10, 15, or 20 years is actually working for you because it shows you've had a long-standing relationship with this creditor and that it's a good one too. Another myth, opening a new retail card improves your score. Now, when I say retail, what I mean is, have you ever gone into Macy's or Lord & Taylor and they say, hey, would you like to open a credit card today? Well, this is not necessarily going to help your credit score. In fact, there's so many negatives about that. So you want to think about that before you do it. A store credit card, they'll often entice you with this wonderful discount you're going to get. Hey, if you open our credit card today, you're going to save 20%. And that does sound good. Hey, it'll only take 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and do that. And you may say, sure, that sounds good. I want to save some money. But think about it. What is the interest rate on that store credit card going to be? Often they are very high. Often they are 20% or more on the interest rate. So you have to then think, well, will I be able to pay this off immediately? Or am I going to carry this balance from month to month? Because if you buy that big screen TV and it costs $600 and you intend to pay it off over the next year, you may very well pay way more in finance charges than you saved on that initial discount. So do you need a lot of credit cards and do you need to keep opening new credit to improve or gain or build a credit history? No, you don't. You need a reasonable amount. 1 credit card, 2 credit cards, major credit cards that can be used anywhere. Visa, MasterCard, a car loan maybe, a mortgage. If you have different types of credit, it's a great thing. Okay, another myth. Co-signing for a friend or loved one does not affect your credit. I see Mary Ellen going, no, don't do that. Yeah. Yeah, if you co-sign for someone, be prepared that you are fully responsible. If that person does not make those payments on time, your credit score will suffer. So it's a dangerous thing. There has to be a lot of trust with that one. All right, so what goes into credit? Let's see. There's a number of factors. Payment history, paying on time, that's the number one. You know what, it's not complicated. Pay on time every single time and your credit will be great. Simple. Why don't people do it? Well, they get into too much debt. It becomes overwhelming. Those monthly payments aren't so easy to make anymore, so we skip one. Or maybe we just forget to make a payment. That should not be necessary anymore because, hey, you can set these things up automatically. Automatic payments are a godsend. Navy Federal has bill pay. You set it up automatically. It's a free service. You know that your card is paid and you don't have to worry. So if you go on vacation and you're thinking in the middle, oh my goodness, did I pay those bills? Don't worry. It's set. You're going to do it. Okay, number 2, think about the amounts that you owe. Have you maxed out all of your available credit? A good rule of thumb is to use 30% or less of your total available credit. All right, so maxing out a card is never a good idea. 30% or less shows that you have restraint. And that improves your credit. Number 3, length of credit history. So we talked about, don't necessarily close that oldest card that you have because that old card has a lot of value because it shows a long-standing relationship. Number 4, a credit mix. A mix of credit cards, a mortgage, maybe a car loan, maybe a personal loan, different kinds of credit that have been handled well over a period of time equal a fantastic credit score. Number 5, new credit. Several new credit accounts in a short period of time will hurt a score. So you don't want a lot of new credit. You want to think long and hard before you apply for anything new. It should be very important. New credit is not necessarily going to help anything, especially if you do a lot within a short period of time. Now, you are entitled to 1 free credit report each year from each of the 3 credit reporting bureaus. So every year you can check your credit report, just like going for your health physical. It's good financial wellness to check. Those credit reporting bureaus are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Or you can go to annualcreditreport.com and they'll help you. They are a good, legitimate annualcreditreport.com. They'll help you get your reports from all 3 bureaus. You can check them out. I see statistics that tell me only 50 to 60% of Americans have checked their credit in the past year. So it would be better if we could get that to 100%, because we should really keep on top of it, make sure everything's looking good. Now, another thing to know that a lot of people surprisingly don't realize that is if you're having difficulties financially in any way, it's a really, really good idea to contact your lenders, your creditors, as early on as you can. They really want to hear from you. And many, many creditors would rather work with you to create a new payment plan that is comfortable for you rather than take a loss. Because, you know, sometimes people find it shameful if they're having financial difficulty. They're embarrassed and they're afraid to talk about it, but it doesn't help them, and it certainly doesn't help the lender, because if they end up walking away from that debt, everyone loses, really. So if you hit by hard times, reach out. Please don't open new credit. Do not close older accounts during times that are tough. That's not a good idea. If you have a lot of high rate cards with balances, a lower rate debt consolidation loan can help a lot. 1 fixed balance, 1 lower rate, 1 monthly payment. And for some people, that's just the relief they need. A lot of banks and credit unions offer those. We do. If you do a debt consolidation loan, you must be very disciplined, because you can't go back and use those cards again, because you'll end up right back where you started from. You can also apply for 1 new lower rate card and transfer balances to that lower card. That works for a lot of people. Or you can use the self-directed methods, like create a strict budget for yourself and pay off your credit cards with all of your willpower and strength. Make higher payments to the credit card that has the highest balance. Or my personal favorite, I really like this one. If you have a bunch of things you want to pay off, pick the one with the smallest balance and really give it your all to pay that one off first, because it's very inspiring once that one is done and you've cleaned it up and you're like, wow, that feels good. So then whatever amount you were paying to that one, start paying to the next one, and so on until they're all gone. That really works for people. Rebuilding credit takes time and patience. Once people have gotten into a situation where their credit has suffered, it can take quite some time, but with patience, you'll get there. And I really think, let's see if you guys have any questions, because we're right at 11:20. and I want to try to keep things on track. So anything out there that you'd like to talk about or ask me?
Hi, Anne-Marie. Thanks. That was great. What are the consequences of paying off a mortgage and not assuming new debt in that area? Does it make any difference one way or the other?
No, there are no consequences to paying off a mortgage. That's a great thing. And you're going to think about how much more money you have in your pocket each month too. So as long as you carried that mortgage for some time, it helped you to build some debt. You made your payments in time. Sorry, helped you build great credit. You made your payments on time that whole time. When you're ready to pay it off, I say pay it off. It's a good thing. I think it's good to then always have something that's active, like a credit card. Even if your car is paid in full, your mortgage is paid in full, have some kind of credit that's active. And like I say, just use it sporadically, small purchases, pay them off in full. Thank you, Scott.
Go ahead, Mary Ellen.
I have a question because of my age in terms of what I do next in terms of where I live, for example. If you have paid off your mortgage, you have credit, you have good credit, you've paid off your mortgage. Is it helpful to get a loan for doing things in the house, like, buying a new furnace and air conditioner, which I already paid for actually, but recently, but all those kinds of things to fix up your house so that then you have even better marks in terms of a high credit score. I have a pretty good one, but then so that you will somehow qualify for the very finest mortgage rate if you buy something else. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. So you want to keep things very strong. You want that credit history to stay strong in case you decide to move into something new.
Exactly,
Right.
because I'm going to have to do that. And that's a big financial decision for me right now.
Sure. And you just have to weigh, is it worth it? If you have the cash on hand to make the repairs and the improvements to the house, obviously, then you're not paying any interest on a loan. So is it really worth it to pay interest on a loan when you already have great credit? I mean, there's nothing, that's hard to say.
The thing I was thinking of doing that for 6 months, paying it off within 6 months. In other words, would that make it easier for you in terms of buying a major thing like a different place to live, which is going to cost me through the nose? It's scary.
Well, so do you check your credit regularly, Mary?
I get this thing because somebody tried to use my credit card, probably from that Target thing, when I figured out it had to be from that horrible Target thing. All of a sudden, last fall, I wound up with 3 things. Never in my life had anything on my credit card before. They were all, and they were not over $100, but 3 things out of the blue that weren't mine. Called up, took care of everything, made sure everything's safe. I bought this stupid $20 a month I spend to have somebody watch my credit. Just found out today that Chase Bank, which has 2 of my credit cards, is already doing that and is a free service. So I'm paying extra money. It's crazy, but I'll figure that out. But the thing is, ever since then, I've been super careful. And that's why I'm asking this question, because if I have to do this on my own, I have to figure out where to go next. And something's going to happen where I will have to, decide about a change.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking in your particular case, if you are tracking that credit score and you know that you're in the 750 or above range, yeah, I don't think you need to have the extra expense of putting those home improvements on a loan, because you will pay interest, even if you pay it off in 6 months, right? You're going to be paying some interest that maybe you just don't need to pay. I don't see how it will really benefit you. If you were someone who was trying to rebuild credit, that would be a different story. I talk to people like that all the time who say they want to buy a home, within a year or two, but they know their credit score is low and they need to rebuild, then I would say, yes, you do need to do some borrowing in order to rebuild.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Yes.
I have another question, Anne-Marie. So, and maybe this is too complicated, but I'll try to make it simple. So we have a small family LLC, a small corporation that I happen to be the managing partner for, and I'm signatory authority on the account. And if things go awry with something like that, a small, family business or something like that, does that affect your personal credit score?
So for the LLC, did you get a separate tax ID number, or are you using your social security number?
It's my social number.
Then it will.
Then it's me.
That's on you.
That makes sense. Thank you. I'm not planning to have any credit problems, but just in case. That's great. Are there any other questions before we move? In fact, I'm shocked that my phone has not rung with a scam while we've been on this call already. Usually it's 10 times a day, but they must be taking a day off today. So maybe this is a good segue to your second presentation, so we have plenty of time for that too. So go ahead.
Okay, so we're going to talk about scams and frauds, and boy, since the advent of the cell phone and the internet, and I remember when life was way more simpler before both those things. So things have become very convenient because of those wonderful technological devices, but also more dangerous. There's a lot for us to be paying attention to, because for criminals, this is a field day. This is a creative way to find ways to get our money. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. And if Sally's still on this call, well, the Prince of Arabia is watching all of us, because the Prince of Arabia is coming to take our money, or whatever they call themselves that day. Cell phone scams are on the rise. So widespread that some experts are calling this an epidemic. It really is. And it goes right along with the pandemic. It's been worse than ever this year. Reaching out to people are home, people are isolated, people are more on the internet maybe, and more susceptible to being taken advantage of than ever before. So it's something you really got to pay attention to. And like Scott, I get these all day long. And I have so many examples on my cell phone or on my email, these scams. So let's talk about the signs that it's a scam if we're not really sure. Oh, first thing, a very wise man told me once, Navy commander who I worked for a short time, and this was his basic philosophy about life. If you are in doubt, just stop and just breathe. Just like we call our presentation here, our group, right? Just breathe, just stop if you're in doubt. Okay, so what do scammers like to do? Oh, they create a sense of urgency. They need you to act quickly. This is urgent and you have to do it now, and you have no time to think. And this is very purposeful because they don't want you to think. Because if you think about this too long, you're certainly not going to go along with what they want. By far, this is the most common technique. They rely on emotions. They are really experts at the psychology of people in many ways. So primarily, they're relying on your fear, and you're feeling that you've done something wrong, or you need to do something right, and you must fix something immediately that went wrong. So you must refuse to react. I want you, the next time one of these calls come in or one of these emails come to you, just please stop and breathe and giggle and go, you're not getting me today. Okay, if you haven't had this one, this is a scary one. This is what they said on my phone the other day. there is a lawsuit against you and a warrant for your arrest for tax evasion. If you do not answer immediately, we will be at your door with this warrant for your arrest. This is just cruel, isn't it? This is really cruel. And by golly, everyone, it's a scam. If somebody wants to arrest you, you'll know they're going to come to your house and they're going to call you first. Sorry, that's me being silly. Or how about this one? It's a happy thing. You've won a wonderful prize, an amazing vacation to a sunny, beautiful island. You just need to pay the shipping and handling to receive your prize. Isn't that wonderful? They're going to give you a $10,000 vacation. They're going to send you the tickets. They just need you to forward them some money first so that they can send those tickets to you, the shipping and handling charges. Yeah. Okay, how about this one? This is your bank. Oh, let's pretend. I am calling from Navy Federal Credit Union, or I am calling from, what's they called? State Farm Insurance Company. These are your companies that you use. We just need to verify and update your information today. Can you please verify? And then they go on. Oh, your date of birth, please. Let me know what that is. Your social security number. No legitimate company will ever call you. Okay, this is an unsolicited call that you receive asking for your personal information. Never. And so you should, I'm sorry, anybody want to talk? No?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm on a call here, but no, go ahead and ask me quickly. What, Tatiana?
Okay. So sometimes they'll do this. I'm calling from your bank, and for your security, I need you to give me certain information. No, that will never happen. So please don't believe it. If you think maybe this call is real, this kind of sounds good, it could be real, the best thing you can do is to get your bank statement, find that number of the bank on there, or go to the real website, the real legitimate website, find the bank or insurance company's phone number and call them. Call them and say, I just received a call. Did you need to talk to me about something? And of course, you'll probably find out that it wasn't real. Now, if you get a lot of scam calls, if you don't know this already, if you have one of these great smartphones, they're such beautiful things, right? If you have one of these, they also have call blocking features. So if you haven't used that yet, you can block a number if it's become repetitive. Also, you know, scammers want to take advantage of people very often in the lowest moments of their lives. My mother-in-law, she lost her husband. We lost our father. And, you know, scammers see that. It's posted online. There's obituaries available that anyone can see. And she started receiving calls. And in her case, most of the calls were designed to earn her trust. They were very kind. They took a lot of time speaking with her. They want to gain her trust, her confidence, feel like they really truly care for her. And they were very patient about it. And thank goodness she let her family members know so that we could warn her, because she really is a good soul and she wasn't really understanding that this was a scam. So another great thing to talk to your family members about, because if they're very innocent about all this, you know, it can help to let them know that everybody is not always having their best interests at heart. But like I say, the most common practice is intimidation, the urgency to act fast, and you know, you need to do this right away. Oh, there's a new one, car buying scam. And you know, there's an old adage that says if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So the car buying scams are, there's this amazing car and the price that they're offering is unlike anything you've seen at any dealership or any advertisement. And you think, wow, this is great. And again, they use urgency. They'll tell you, well, you know, I need to sell this car quickly. I'm getting divorced, or the car belongs to a relative who has passed, and I just really need to move quickly. And this is when you're buying privately, you know, if you try to buy privately. Common signs to look for: they won't meet you in person. They ask for prepayment of some kind. They tell you that they need a little bit of money up front. Basically, do business with trusted professionals, because it's hard, really hard to decipher what's real and what's not when you're out there. So it's just best a real trusted professional dealership. Hard to do deals privately with people. It really is. I mean, great if you feel comfortable with it, but it can be scary. Common fake loan scams that happen. I don't know if you've had these come into your inbox or in the mail. They offer you these incredibly great rates and terms, and you just have to pay the processing fee up front. So again, they ask you, well, just give us your credit card or your bank account number. There's a small processing fee, and it can be very small. It could be a couple of $100 maybe. And then they're going to give you this amazing loan and amazing rate. And you may think, well, that's worth it. But the truth is your money will be gone and you won't have the loan at all. And you'll never hear from them again. So any lending that is done that you did not ask for, any solicitation is actually illegal in the United States of America. People can't call you and ask you to apply for a loan. So again, remember, if they're urging you to act fast, just run, just stop, just breathe. Don't run, just stop, just breathe, say no. Oh my goodness, this is a common one. I have an Amazon and I have a Netflix. And almost every week I get an email from those two companies, but it's not really. It's not really, but it looks so real. And it says, we are shutting off your account. And I got to tell you guys that even now, the Netflix one, because I love my Netflix movies so much, it upsets me. And I see it and I think, oh no, why? And the latest one said, your payment information on file needs to be updated. Your credit card isn't working and you need to give us a new one so that we can continue the service. Common scam. Okay, now, COVID vaccine scams. These are on the rise. So we all, well, many of us want a COVID vaccine very badly, and for a while it's been hard to get. And so they take advantage of that as well. And so if anyone calls you or emails you and says they will need payment up front, or they need your social security number and they need to put you on a list, it probably is a scam. That's not how COVID vaccinations work. So don't give information to any stranger telling you you're going to get a vaccine tomorrow. All right, never click a link. If you remember nothing else from this presentation, just remember that. You get an email and there's a link inserted in it. And it says, click here for these amazing details, this amazing price. Don't click links. What can happen is malware can get onto your computer that then can allow a scammer to steal all the other information that's on there, like your passwords, your accounts, your financial information. No links, okay? Don't click any links from any unreputable source of an email. If you do that, you'll be protecting yourself. It's a simple way to protect yourself. Again, if you think it's real, if you think this company is true, call them. Call and verify. Scams often have spelling and grammatical mistakes. Very often, real, professional, legitimate companies like mine pay professional writers to edit and make sure that any information we put out is well-versed, is proper English. If you see something with spelling and grammar, it may not be legitimate because they're not taking the time to do it right. So read your statements, check your credit report yearly, really check your finances. If you don't get paper statements in the mail anymore, that's a good thing, because paper statements kind of open you up to people steal mail and they get your information. But you want to be looking at your account. If you do all your banking online, check it regularly, not once every 6 months, regularly, every few days or so. Make sure everything looks good. ATMs. Go to an ATM, pull on the card reader. I'm serious, pull on it a little bit. Make sure it doesn't pop off in your hand. This is a common scam. They put a reader on top of there, and when you insert your card, it reads all the information from the card. Does the keypad feel strange when you're keying it in? Does it feel loose or spongy? Just strange. It might have a device attached to it. Look for ATMs that are very high traffic and high profile, out in the open. Not the ones that are scary, kind of tucked away in the dark. Stay away from those. Out in the open, where you could see if anyone was around you from a good distance. Be careful with ATMs as well. The more visible, the better. Always cover your hands when you're entering your PIN. Why? Because even if there's no one standing behind you, this is what I used to think. Well, there's nobody there. Why do I have to do that? There might be a camera looking at the PIN, and then they get the PIN, and now they have the card number because it showed it on the camera, and now they have your credit card. Now, there are a lot of great financial institutions out there. Navy Federal is one, that we have a zero liability policy. I hope you all have a financial institution like that. So even if something should happen and your information should get out there, you would not be responsible. And that's ideal because, you know, we do know in the finance world that there's a lot of things out there that can go wrong. Password importance. Passwords are so important and so many people are just getting it wrong. Don't use a dictionary word. Don't use your pet's name. Don't use your grandchild's name. Don't use things that are so obvious that people could figure out. This is important for all passwords. Mnemonic passwords are really an awesome thing. Here's an example of mnemonic. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, except February was 28, something like that, right? We all know that little rhyme and we can remember it. So you can do the same sort of things with passwords. Think sentences, not words. Think a sentence that you could remember, like, my friend Kate has 8 cats. My friend Kate has 8 cats. Now, if you really have a friend Kate who really has 8 cats, that'll be easy to remember. And then choose the first letter from each word and make that your password. So it would be MF, capital K for Kate, H, number 8, C for cats with an exclamation point, because that's unbelievable. She has 8 cats, so we have an exclamation point. So you know what I mean? Think of things that you can easily remember and then use the first letter of each word. Think of sentences. So, unfortunately, During this time of uncertainty, the scammers have come out full force. They love these times. This works for them. We're on edge, maybe. We have a lot to deal with, and we might not be on our game, and they might get to us. Illegitimate charities, they want to make you believe, oh, you're going to give to something wonderful. Be careful. Check it out first. If they're pulling on your heartstrings, they really probably want to pull on those purse strings. So just stop, think about it. If you want to give to a charity, you know how to do it. Seek them out on your own. Okay, romance scams or befriending you, common. I mean, sometimes they want to be your best friend, but sometimes they're in love with you, right? This happens more than you think. This is the Prince of Arabia kind of guy who all of a sudden he's overseas, but you have this connection that is amazing. And, you know, these people will take a long time to develop this relationship with you. And then one day they're going to ask you for money. And it happens, and people give the money up. So tell your friends, tell your relatives, don't fall for that. Be very careful, because we're connecting online. You see, we're all doing it all day long. It's really easy to believe that this new person you met is a dear friend or is even in love with you. It's not as hard as it sounds. People fall for it. Be overly cautious all the time, slow down, protect your assets. You've worked really, really hard for them. So don't give it away too easily. If you want to give money away, like I said, you know how to do it. Find the charity or whoever you want to give to on your own and make that happen. But protect it from the scammers. So what questions do you have, my friends?
Thanks, Anne Marie. That's great as usual. Can't hear this stuff often enough. You know, my father just, you know, fortunately didn't fall for it, but, you know, AOL, which is his email account, came after him, supposedly was going to turn off his account if he didn't, you know, pay them $1 million and everything, you know, in Bitcoin or something. So it got him all panicked for a few minutes. Fortunately, my mom talked him down off the ledge, but they're very creative.
Yes.
Mary Ellen, do you have a question?
I'm getting so old that my question stops in the middle and I forget half of it. It's really horrible. It's awful. My brother's in the same boat and he's a little younger than I am. But anyway, it was regarding the telephone. I'm very careful. I have an extra little piece of equipment that I bought for, you know, a little bit and put on my home phone, my actual home phone, not my cell phone. And I have to keep getting up and pushing the button because about 5 times a day, that's what happens if I'm home. And otherwise I leave a message and it's from Microsoft trying to, I don't have Microsoft. I have AOL. I mean, I have Apple. So I have nothing to do with Microsoft on my computer. But my question is this, does anybody have any feature that they know of that won't require you to get up and block a phone on your landline now? We're talking landline phone. My cell phone, you're right. You can figure out how to get rid of it somehow. And I'm not good at that either. I need a 10-year-old to stay at my house. But I really do. I feel it's just awful. I don't understand all this stuff. I try. But is there some feature that's been made clear to everybody about how you get the you know, I just get rid of them by punching block, but sometimes I'm not sure it's a block, but I just dump it anyway. I don't listen to it. I don't hear it. I just block it. But how do you do it without getting up and going to a machine and blocking it on your landline? Does anybody know? It's killing me. No, you don't. Okay. I thought maybe there was a way.
Yeah. Sorry.
Every day, 5 times.
With fewer people than ever are even using landlines.
I heard that and I almost cried the other day because seriously, mine is an old number and you think that it's on every single thing in your background. Everybody's got that number, your bank, your this, your that.
Yeah.
It's on everything.
Actually, Mary Ellen, you're the only one that has a landline.
Oh,
left. I'm just joking. I have one.
Do you? Oh, thank God. I don't know what to do, and I would love to know if there was some reasonable solution.
I have Verizon service, and it has some rudimentary features that will at least identify calls as spam reliably. So at least I don't have to pick up a receiver. So your whatever service you're using.
It shows spam, sir? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the caller ID will identify it as spam.
This is.
Yeah, right there on that.
I get some of those, but many of them, many of
sneak
them.
through. Yeah, well, if they're spoofing you with a local number, a lot of times they'll come through. I will just point out that
local numbers. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to know. Thank you.
You get spoofed. I will point out the Shepherd Center is an actual charity, and so it's okay. However, if you get a call from us and you're not expecting it, you can always call back the office to confirm. All righty, that was great, Anne Marie. We're getting close. We're at the end of our time. Actually, we're a little over. I needed just a couple of minutes to thank everybody for joining again. It was a great session as usual. Sally and Anne Marie did a wonderful job with important topics. We've got 2 more sessions coming up, one in May and one in June. You'll hear more from us about that. And I'm sure they'll be just as good. So on behalf of Shepherd Center, I really want to thank our sponsors, Navy Federal, of course, and AARP of Virginia, and making these sessions possible for us. And thank everybody again for Zooming along. We're sorry for the few little technical difficulties there at the beginning, but we've all gotten pretty creative about how to overcome these days, and we managed to make it all work. So thanks very much, everybody. Have a good afternoon, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next session. Bye-bye now.